All right, guys, welcome to our class tonight. We are jumping on part two of chapter 15 for our master educators. All right, chapter 15, part two. Last night we had a great intro and we had a guest speaker. Ava Freeman and Company came in, talked about as an educator, what are some of the roles, responsibilities, and also those additional adjectives that you can add to your classroom. Here's a little recap, just into the critical concept. We did watch a video as well yesterday on our own personal time, a nice little tag talk to get us to learn and find our voice. All right. So here's the critical concept as a recap. It says so many students have dropped out of high school or college, said because the overall learning experience at the institution was negative. Master educators can make the learning experience a positive one. We gave feedback on how we can do that, how we can turn a negative into a positive. Okay. Looking at our performance goals, slide through today for the master educator as we go into this chapter. Let's look at a few things we'll be able to tackle when we come out on the other side. Explaining the importance of implementing a sound student retention program. One of the things we stressed yesterday was what is retention? And although educators could be the best educators in the world, you know your stuff, but how do you deal with the students in the classroom? How do you bring your personality? How do they trust you? That is how you build retention. How do you meet them where they are and usher them where they need to go? Okay, so explaining the importance of implementing a sound student retention program. How do we get them? And this is ultimately what it is. How do we get them to come to school every day? How do we get them also to be on time? How do we get them to do the work? How do we get them excited about this new career that they're walking into? And so, yes, educators is this is not a career where you can just drop in and say, I'm gonna wing it, I'm retiring. No, this is a whole nother career that it's going to take some work. With a new day, a new age, new generations, and I am excited to be a facilitator of learning. Okay, continuous learning, continuous teaching. I'm excited about it. Okay, we got some people over in the waiting room, and as we begin, let's see what we got going on. All right, so as we continue to look at the objectives for this chapter, I want to say welcome to those who have just come on. Just gave a little recap about what we went over yesterday and moving on into our objectives. What are we looking like at the end? Building that strong bond with your tribe, with your community. That's going to be the biggest thing. Having them trust you, build a great rapport, being yourself, your personality, using all of your positive traits to evolve your classroom. Okay. And no two classrooms are going to be the same, but the ultimate goal in anything we're doing is to get the student to make sure the student is retained. And so, even after the graduation, we need to make sure they retain employment. Everything that they do now is just a prerequisite for where they're going in the future. And so, retention is a big, big thing when it comes to adult learning career colleges. Write a mission and vision statement. So we will visit writing a mission and vision statement. A lot of times it is getting centered, getting focused, okay? And just saying, hey, where do we go from here? We're at the end on this one, but it's a new chapter that's about to start. What do we want to do? All right, explaining the role of administrative policies in institution operations, which means even though you may come through the course, you have the training of master educator, that may not be where you fit. It may be God ordained that you are in the administrative area because that's a gift in that area. Still adult education, still beauty, but you just have a gift in administrative flow. Or maybe you just want to own the school and run the school from the administrative component and not necessarily teach. Well, we're going to talk about the role of the administrators, policies, and things of that nature. Just typical operations. If you've been a supervisor or a manager, and I tell anybody, if you have had some form of leadership on a job, you bring that into your classroom. That was on the job training. Okay. Develop a unique institution culture. What do we do here? At here, this hours at here is a safe space. Okay. What is the culture? All right. Explain the effects of admissions and new student orientation policies on student retention. All right. How do we stay connected with them? How do we make sure that A, B, and C, everybody's on the same page? And instill student ownership in the institution. I will have students say, Miss Cox, I'm going to pay you Tuesday. I said, well, you're not going to pay me. Go and see the financial office and you're going to pay the school on Tuesday. I don't want them to think that there's an individual that has only one ownership, okay? Or everything is coming to an individual. In hand, you have to pay the school. Okay, and you're paying the school. I try to separate myself from the form of payment on that end. And also, when students are saying your school, I said, well, 9 times out of 10, it is your school as well. What do you want? How do you learn? Asking those questions about learning objectives and teaching and just learning about your people gives them insight. The educator doesn't always have to show, even though we know you're the authoritarian in the classroom, I don't want to use the word boss, okay? Because the boss tells everybody what to do. All right, points fingers, tells everybody what to do, don't really do any work. I want to be known as the leader, okay? Because leaders help the team lead, and leaders train and prepare others to be leaders. Ultimately, that's what it is. Leaders train and help others become very successful in what they do. All right. And so when we talk about ownership of the institution, the educators are partial ownership of the institution as well, because they're the ones that are building they're a part of these communities in the classroom. So you got to make sure the educators have ownership. Okay, whether you have to do reward programs. You have to make sure the morale is in a certain place. All right. And from there, that would transfer over to their classroom, their tribes, their gatherings, whatever we have. We call it that set of learners. Okay. It needs to be a culture that this is our school, not just one school. This is our classroom, not just one, because you can get a whole lot of more stuff done when people are appreciated, when they feel like they're a part of the team. And educators, we don't always have to be put the hammer down, but we can also propose, okay, as a class, let's vote. Because I'm not the only one. You're all a part of this classroom too. We can say things of that nature just to remind them that, hey, this is everybody's opportunity to be a part of a team. We're going to deliver effective curriculum content. That's our main job. Know what we know, learn, continue learning, and deliver. We can write out the best lesson plans, but if we can't deliver it, we have a problem. Okay. Explain the importance of holding the highest level of enthusiasm when teaching. I am not asking you to lie. I am not asking you to do something you don't want to do. Simply, if you don't have enthusiasm when you come in the classroom, you will have to leave. That's it. That's it. Because the students are going to pick up on, they call it the anticipation set. The students are going to pick that up from the instructor. And because that's their instructor, they have ownership. That's my teacher. That's my classroom. That's my team. That's my class. They start to have ownership immediately. And so, whatever the educator portrays, the students will start to pick it up. And so we not almost, we do have to make sure that we're speaking positively of the institution. We're speaking positively of our coworkers, because it can be easy to, people look at eyes, movement, facial expressions, and just remind ourselves, and I had to have this conversation today, that educators, our team, our staff and team, that's one team. Students, on the other hand, learners, that's another team. Now, I prefer, and I strongly, with anyone that works for me, stay on the professional side. Okay, you're able to talk and conversate with students and not be their best friends. I don't want, and I'm being honest from you, from a school owner point of view, I want educators who are strong and not lacking friendship, not lacking companionship. And you may say that ain't got nothing to do with me coming in teaching. Yes, it does, because it starts to attach and bleed off on students. So, wanting attention and wanting companionship, you start to pull students in further than the courts that they're supposed to be in. So now they cross the line, and when they cross the line is now blurry. You don't know if the teacher is still the teacher and works for the institution, or if the teacher is now the best friend of the student that doesn't care about the institution. How do we find out? When we're asked to lay the law down and the student has a problem following instructions or taking instructions, I don't want to say orders, but taking any kind of pushback from that particular learner. That's when you find out the line has been blurred, and now we cause an issue. That educator has to be transferred to another classroom or out of the facility in order for us to rebuild, because it's going to create tension that neither side has time for. And so I had to have that conversation today, um, with a supervisor, not of the school, but where, just on this another level about a particular educator. They ran well. They did an amazing job. I just am at a point I cannot keep on staff individuals who are not confident of what they do and who they are. And so that's a big thing for me. It may not be a big thing for everybody else, but I do make sure that you are fully developed as an individual, because working in any facility, any school, you're going to have to hold your own. And if students are too influential on your decisions, especially your professional decisions, that become an issue, and it builds a wedge between the teams. So we want to make sure we definitely talk about that, being enthused, having a rapport that is transferable on either side, delivering excellent student service. You may not care like the student. Who cares? You are literally here to do a job. And I want to say, is this a passion or something you just knocked off your list? Because if it's a passion, if you're here with purpose, no matter if the students give you feedback, whether it's positive or negative, you take it. and you turn it around. You're always looking to turn it around to make it positive. How do we get the good out of this? How do we get the good orange juice out of this orange? How do we get the good out of it? So a lot of times we have to deal with ourselves and be very mature. That's why I ask about having confidence and being an educator, being very mature, because if someone gives you a negative feedback, I need to know that you can take it. You say, okay, well, I see. Let's come up with some options or an action plan to turn it around. Are you able to be accountable? Are you able to take responsibility? And we will ask the same of the students and of any staff member. So if it does not it address here, it'll be addressed somewhere along the career. But at the same time, if that student had something negative to say, or they say, I just don't like Miss Cuss White shirt today, okay, fine. Let's continue to move forward because I'm here to teach. Okay. And whatever negative aspect they have about me should not interrupt my goal, my purpose, my job to teach. So whether they like it or not, I'm here to teach. And I think I've stated before, had plenty of them that may not have liked. Guess what? 10 years later, 20 years later, Miss Cox, I just wanted to write you and tell you you were one of the best teachers. Everything I know, every time I look at this, I think about you. When I think of remembering stuff, I can remember the stuff that you, even when I didn't like you. That's the type of stuff that makes my job worth it. So if I didn't see it in 2010, I definitely feel it now in 2026. The just feeling like I have made a difference. And I don't hang on to stuff. Now, I've had a beautiful career and I'm still going. Had a beautiful career, I'm still going, but I had to realize you can't please everybody. And when you give everybody 100 plus percent, you're definitely making a difference even if you don't see it, even if it's they don't pat you on your back. You got to know, you got to sleep in your own bed, look at your own self in the mirror and say, did I give my all? So that's all that educating is all about. No matter where you go to work or what you do, are you really ready? Okay, because what you're doing, you're guiding the lives of so many. This is the first opportunity for other people, first career, and this also is the second or third career for a lot of individuals. Just think that they will cross your path. Okay, you don't want to deter them, you want to inspire them to keep going. So we have to deliver to our students at a level of excellence we're even scared to touch. Okay. So even myself, working to get better every day. Every day. No one has made it or arrived. Okay. But I am literally working to get better every day. All right. Explaining the importance of professional development as an educator. Y'all, I'm getting ready to teach October the 19th and 20th. I'm teaching the BELC Beauty Educators Leadership Conference. It's a virtual experience. It's a 16-hour continuing education CE for Tennessee beauty educators. Okay? Sponsored, approved, okay, by the Tennessee State Board of Cosmetology and Barbering. I do this for a couple of states, all right, but I love doing it for the home team, Tennessee. And I do this twice a year, one in April this year, and in November. I will do this again probably the first quarter and the last quarter of the year for 2027. But at the end of the day, educators come together. They learn about classroom management. They learn about the new trends and techniques and what's going on in the classroom. I introduce a lot of AI activity and community and concepts to help build the classroom. We get updated on state laws. We get updated on PSI testing for students. It's a lot. Professional development. We learn about if this isn't, we got a class called help. That's not my strength. Where you have other educators in the breakout room saying, hey, if one person saying, hey, I have to teach hair color, but hair color is not my strength. I don't want to embarrass myself and I don't want to say the wrong thing. Well, you may have in your group 3 or 4 people that love hair color, just don't get to teach it. They can help you build out your lesson plans. They help you build out so many things. And so that's one of the classes I like. Also about listening, also about speaking. We have a class called Speak, Teach, Learn. Okay. And it talks about different types of speeches and instructors being more articulate and preparing themselves for virtual training, which isn't going anywhere. Okay. Also practice recognition and praise in the educational process. So we have to remember, although we're teaching adults, it is a learning environment. Okay. Although we're teaching adults, it is a learning environment. The learning environment for adults, you almost have to go back to elementary. Not to say to treat them like children, but remember the praise, reward. Move as you move about, making them feel like they're doing something. They're a part of the class. They used to in elementary stars, red block, ice cream day. I mean, just little things, create these little activities or benchmarks that help celebrate who the student is and what they've learned along the way. It is giving the student this form of motivation and encouragement that they may not get anywhere else. And sometimes your students just want to say, hey, you're doing a really good job. Sometimes they just want to say, can I, they just want a pat on the back. They may not have anybody to say anything positive to them at all when they go home. Home actually may be hell. And I've had students to say they love to come to school and don't really want to leave because of how bad home felt at that moment. So when they're there, you want to have peace, you want to push them. They have so many things that they could give up on, but they keep showing up. And it could be because somebody finally believes in them. Your one little compliment about how well they did that roller set, that one little compliment about how well she laid that acrylic, how her customer service, you notice her customer service with the client, how you took care of a troubled client. Those little bitty pieces help shape who they are and how long and how well they do in the beauty industry. Let's look at the master educator. What do we do? Hey, we support at the sound administrative policies of the institution at all times. So even though you're coming in on an educator role, you are you are the institution. You work for the institution. You sleep the institution. You wake up the institution. In all aspects, you represent the institution when the institution is not even in the building. So mostly we're on a virtual space. And so that means even the virtual space, you represent the school. You go to Walmart, you go to Target. I hate to say, you signed on for this, you represent the school because where do they know you from? From that school. Okay. So a lot of times the biggest things that has gotten people in trouble, and I know we have to talk about it, is online presence, their personal online presence. And individuals that say, hey, I want to work with you. I used to tell this young man, say, hey, I want to be on your team when I was traveling a lot. I was like, why? I was like, send me an email and give me 3 reasons why you want to be on the team. Why I got to send an email? That's why you're not on the team. Number one, I wanted them to see if they could read and comprehend. That was my way. If you can't send me an email and express to me why you want to be on the team, we're not gonna be able to do it. Okay. So one, you can't read and comprehend. That means you're not gonna follow instructions. Number two, here's another time where we want to see you represent. I want to see how you respond because even in your online presence, you're going to represent us. So if you're taking pictures, and I only see your backside, you can't work for me. We just have to be totally honest. And if we're going to be dealing with a lot of contracts or a lot of this and a lot of that, most times I don't even look at a resume. I ask, what's their Instagram? What's their Facebook? Because most people have already figured out who they are in the middle of looking through their social media. And so that's something you check out as well. I've seen educators literally get laid off because of what they were doing on their social media, who they were doing it with, and inviting students to do it with. And so that's something you're like, what? Yeah, that's 2026. That's how they're doing it. And so some of them may not be ready for this type of education because I told you, you still work for the school, for the facility. Your our reputation is your reputation. And so let's look at Master Educator lives and breathes the established culture the institution. So you say you're A, B, and C. Students are going to say, show me A, B, and C. Okay. So you gotta, if I am one way and it may seem uneasy, but I'm never gonna put you in a position I'm not gonna be in myself. I'm never gonna ask you to do something that I'm not gonna do myself. Okay. So advanced training is my thing. Okay. Continuing education and learning is my thing. I express that and push that on those that work for me. Continue learning, continue moving. And this is what I say on the leadership end and not the boss end. Boss wants you to stay where you are and do it for them. Okay. Leaders is like I tell them, look, if you're on my team, this is what I used to tell young lady that's on my team, this young man. After 3 years, you need to find something. You should be enhanced and so far ahead. If you've traveled with me for 3 years, you're so far ahead, you should be ready to go. You should be birthing something out by now because you have served with me. I'm ready to help serve you. I don't need people packing up my bags and rolling my cart and things of that nature. Okay, I can do that myself, and I especially don't need to have somebody do that for more than extended amount of time. I want you to move. I want you to grow. And the same thing happened with educators who are in the building. Learn something, move. This is not your final place. This will never be your final place. We're here to help people move along. Okay. We're here to help people get established. It is not your final place. And so when you have places that want to harbor workers and teachers and don't want them to move, don't want them to talk to anybody else, you have to really watch out for that because they're just trying to hone and get as much as they can out. All right. You really got to look for that. You want to always go to a place where you have opportunity to grow. We look at provides in injury. Oh, I'm having a tongue tied. Energize education and instills the desire to learn daily. Come in talking about what you learned. I talk about it all the time, what I learned, okay? And I want to transfer it to the students. I look for places. I know students are not going to look to learn something and take it over. Wraps every required student criticism in a praise sandwich. I'm not just gonna be blunt, even though people say that's just how I am. No, that is a learned behavior that can be unlearned. I don't respond to rudeness. I know a lot of people who see marketing, and marketing can be gorilla in your face, rude, and it can be insulting. And some people use those avenues to push products to make you sign up for things, almost like bully into things, making you feel really bad. That's not how I respond. Okay. That's not my response. So I'm not going to allow students to be talked to any kind of way, staff to be talked to any kind of way, because I don't do that. And rudeness has no place when you're offering a professional service, especially a student educational service. Now, here's the golden rule: treating people the way you want to be treated. So if you're treating them in a negative way, a very nonchalant, negative way, non concerning way, then you're probably going to get that also on the other side. And it's not going to be really cute. Okay. And then when we are praising students or even have to conversate and talk to a student and give some disciplinary notions, okay? Some look, you got to sit down about some things. We got to have a conversation. We can't let that go. It wraps it in the praise. Okay. So a lot of times I would say, if you have to talk to a student, let's Oreo. Okay. It's like, well, let's Oreo or let's have a sandwich. Every layer of the ingredients of the sandwich is a part of you praising the student, addressing the issue, also coming back with a praise. Then also, what is the action? Letting the student have voice as well, and then coming back to the table for the final action. That's building the sandwich. When we talk about an Oreo, sometimes that's the simplified form of it. You have two cookies and cream. One, I'm complimenting the student, or one, I'm praising the student. The cream, two. Let's get down to the nitty gritty while we're here. Okay. So if that means you got to administer some disciplinary, you got to give them an eval, you got to get them a write up, whatever you got to do, that's the cream. And then we close the cookie up with another praise. Okay. And it could be a praise of thanks. Glad that we came. They're glad we had the opportunity to talk. I want to see you complete the program. I want to see you graduate, so on and so on and so on. But individuals respect when you come to them and you're able to lay it out on the line. Now, we are dealing with different types of people. That is why we don't just, however you feel like it, that's what you say. And sometimes educators, as educators, we have to relearn things. Because what if we're teaching something that we ain't never been taught ourselves? Okay, so that's where professional development comes in. If you know you're not good with people, you may need to find, you pop off really quickly, but you're a good educator, but you got anger issues. You need to go find somebody before. You always need somebody to go with you, and then you need to talk to your director about some, you know, advice, some tips on how to manage and deal with the students in a more professional light. So all of that, great aspects. And then wrap everything up in a praise, even a form of criticism. That's what we do with our sandwiches. As we continue to move on, that was a pretty much gist of the whole course, of the whole chapter. Retention plan, coming up with something. We have to have a plan. If we don't have a plan, we plan to fail. You don't have a plan to succeed, you plan to fail. Okay. The plan begins with a prospective student walks through the front door for the first time. You should have a plan of that student graduating. Okay. That's the plan. Our philosophy. What do we stand on? Okay. The institution must be led by a set of agreed upon and shared beliefs. You believe in me, I believe in you. Okay. Our goal is to get these students prepared for the beauty industry in 2026. Okay. No matter whoever comes to this door, we got to be so relevant and in the now to know what's needed, and to also have a chokehold on what we had when we came up with. In order for that to continue, we got to be able to take it, share it, take it, break it up a little bit, share it, break it up a little bit and share it. And that's how we keep the industry at a high standard. Here's some retention plan elements, which, these are pieces of a retention plan. Praise policy, educator investment. Customer service, energized educators, a creative curriculum, student ownership of the school, institution vision and mission, administrative policies, institutions culture, admissions policies, orientation program. Gotta have that mission. Here's the mission statement. What the school is. What are we? Who do we represent? What do we hope to accomplish? And who do we serve? Okay. Here's the vision. Be clear. Paint a vivid and clear picture. It ain't got to be a whole lot. I just looked at my church mission and vision statement. It's the clearest I ever seen it. Okay. And I love it. It ain't got to be a whole lot. And what you have to say says a lot in a few sentences. 3 questions. Where are we today? Where do you want to be? How do we get there? Okay, that's great for development, especially when they're coming through the door. Or I may even use this for the continuing education on the 19th and 20th. Where are we today? What do we want? Where do we want to be? And how do we get there? Great conversation starters. We look at ethical administrative policies. Publish written policies and procedures. All schools must have these policies and procedures presented to the board and then employ them as well. When we look at defining the school's culture, okay, what's the school's personality? It's pretty much going to start at the top and flow down to the bottom. Okay, so it's mainly if you look at me being school owner and also educator, whatever my highest aspects are, you know who I am, what I represent, those also would be transparent, and that's what the facility, the school represents as well. Okay, coming to a school, you have to find a way to align yourself with those same characteristics. Okay, desired atmosphere. It takes 11 positive people to overcome one negative one. Please keep that in mind. 11 positive people to overcome one negative one. All right. Takes 11 positive people. School's culture is portrayed through physical image, our language, our effectiveness, education, and people. All of that becomes part of the culture. Everybody has a role to play. Let's look at admissions. I taught a course to school owners once before about retention. Okay. A school's retention program continues with the first enrollment interview. Even though they go on to be in the classroom, okay, they're going to see the person that enrolled them throughout their whole time at that school. That person becomes a partner that if you can't, as the educator, get in touch with them, you got somebody that can also get in touch with them. Okay. You got somebody that can say, hey, let me tag you in. Remember, you enrolled them, and they may respond to her, whereas at one point they don't respond to you. The school's retention program continues the first interview. Here's an admissions interview. Now, I know several educators that have maneuvered from classroom to administration. A lot of times they're stronger, they find that they're stronger in classroom, and sometimes they're stronger in administration. They're really good with students and moving around and getting them to do what they need to do. Also, they may have a professional background and like a corporate management or something. And so I have seen educators come out of the classroom and tap into their gifts that they came in with and flourish in offices, okay, flourish as leaderships. I've even seen a student who came through the aesthetics program, left a corporate job, and they turned around because of her corporate duties and hired her as director. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. And she flourished. I don't know if she necessarily worked, but her skills were so phenomenal that they needed her in the office and administrative side. And she was familiar. She went through the program. She was familiar. And so even if she didn't work, she still considered an equal part of the team because she's making it work from the dashboard, from the office. Most admissions interview, okay, we're going to discuss what is required, complete course costs, program overview, why the school is a good choice, school policies and standards, school performance and outcomes, physical and safety demands, expected compensation potential, and licensure requirements. You have to show them what they can do and achieve with this license. Here's student registration. Once they're in, of course, they're pre screened. Some schools used to do literacy pre screening to see how far they go. Or can they even come into a classroom? Most of the time, I am a digital person. If I'm talking over the phone, there is one particular person that I've had calls that I deterred. I was like, hey, it's going to involve a whole lot. And if you come on, you're going to be required to complete A, B, C, and D. If you're not able to do that, I don't want you to be stuck with the financial obligation. And I put it in their hands. I put it in their hands and was very, very honest. I personally thought the individual would do better in a shorter program instead of a longer cosmetology program. And I personally thought the person would do better in an in person training instead of online. Okay. And we actually had the opportunity and still talk with that parent today how well their child is doing, and I think the young lady is probably doing well in the program. But you just have to, everybody's not going to be a perfect fit. You can't provide everything to everyone. And when it comes to new student orientation, they're just getting acquainted to what's going on. What's our promise? What's your culture? What are you going to say? This is what we stand on. Instilling student ownership. This is a big one, guys. Student support services. So student needs something, become resources. They need someone to help validate, someone to speak for them. Maybe them and the educator or them and the director is not getting along. They have the right to pull in a third party. Transfer technique, monthly rap sessions, which we're going to talk, be one, with the culture. If you're saying you're approachable, be approachable. Okay. Don't wait on them to come to you. Go to them. Have a suggestion box. Don't be afraid of feedback. hmm Creative curriculum, advance, enhance. I was out at Ulta the other day. Ulta's having something next Friday in our area, and I want my students to attend. Okay, it doesn't matter for me being virtual. Students that do attend, I kind of want to make it exciting. I'm gonna be there. Find me. And they're like, what? I say, yeah, you have to find me. So I just be just in the area or inside of Ulta, for example, and they'll say, I said, what's your instructions? Okay, it says, find Miss Cox and take a picture. Find Miss Cox and take a picture. And then it may be, what's the name of the speaker? What three things did you learn today? What are you taking back with you that you did not know? Shop around the store. Was there anything that you purchased today? Not mandatory, but if we had a client that had such and such going on, is there anything in the store you would recommend? Okay. And so all of that becomes, it's like taking class from a virtual aspect to a real life interaction. And so I love doing that, just to kind of keep the class alive and keep it creative and keep it moving. Okay. Energize educators. If you bring the energy, your students are going to bring it. You're going to be more effective in the classroom. You're going to be that teacher that really promotes, um let's get it done. Okay. Prepare and organize the elements of teaching. Not so much when you're just getting there when the student gets there, but already being prepared. You have to take from elementary teachers. And even though they are adults, remember they are the parents of elementary students. Okay. Same learning concept, but remember they're adults delivering outstanding customer service. All right. Customer experience is everything. If you're rude and mean, they'll never refer you. They'll finish what they pay for, they'll never refer you. Who are the customers? Find out who your market is. Y'all, let me tell you if I can share something with you. When this was okay, school owner, social media, all that, school owner, the school opened February 2019. We were licensed January 2019. School opened February 2019. Um, Even before the school opened, I simply did a notice, a post that the school was opening, and I'm so excited. This is the next. This is my next. I'm slowing down from traveling. This is my next. And I had so many people that said, my child is definitely going because I remember you being my teacher. That's how I received a lot of my first year students from referral. I taught their parents. That was a lot of those were my students. It was simply off of word of mouth. Okay. And from there, I haven't had to do a lot as far as advanced marketing outside of social media. I've done a couple of publications in different areas. But I analyzed where my group of students were. If you look on social media, a lot of the platforms are free, but majority of my students were on Facebook. So I said, when I worked at other schools, what was it that the students would tell me was the issue? Number one, they were looked at as money, a number. Okay. No, they could never speak with anybody in the front office. Okay. They never could get anything answered. Okay. And so I said, okay, I got to get personal. I got to get personal with them on this end, which means I'm going to do a marketing post. I'm going to engage with them. That was my point of getting personal. I'm going to engage with them. So anyone that comments, I'm going to come in behind them. Anyone that asks for any kind of information 24/7, I had them notifications on because remember, I'm building a program. I would send them the information. Okay. And so just like, oh, thanks for getting back with me. Thanks for getting back with me. Random DMs, I would say, hey, just fill this link out and give me a good time to call you in the morning. Or can you jump on the Zoom? The hustle was hustling. Okay. The hustle was hustling. And at this moment, we're restructuring, but I'm restructuring to the point of we're putting everything in place. And even now, if I do a little post on the micro school, I'm going to keep it small. I know if I go aggressive in the post, I'm going to get a lot of students, in which right now I can only handle what I can handle. So sometimes we got to tone it down just a little bit. But I knew my demographic. My demographic lived and scrolled on social media. So that's where all my marketing went in. Okay. From tags to posts. I didn't really do more than $25 ads when I did do it. Pulling popular sounds, okay, going live, just in many different aspects, and just letting them know, letting them see, and then answering questions live, jumping on Zoom. So being accessible, that was one of the biggest things. Also, when it comes to needs, what could I offer that those schools didn't offer? Okay, shorter, flexible programs, care about the students instead of just seeing them as a number. Okay. And expectations. I love to travel. So guess what? I brought that into the school. I love training. I love education. I brought that into the school. So my students were exposed to travel, shows, education. Okay. So that became my culture, still is. And when I was working for other people at their schools, they didn't want the students going on field trips. I love it. We're going everywhere you want to go. Because I'm exceeding expectations. I'm putting in front of them when no one else will put in front of them. I'm preparing them for professional realm, even while they're students, introducing them. Most of my students were came to me backwards, training backwards, which means they already had a suite but no license. So they were being pushed out, licensure requirements, pushed out of the suites, and they needed somewhere to go real fast because this was their bread and butter, help with their family. And I understood the concept. So, yes, I opened the doors, let them come to school, and they took advantage of the flexibility. And that was, of course, 50%, 50%. All right. And at that time, then another time we switched that 50-50. 3 days in, 2 days virtual, still 5 days, still cutting their hours. They could come in on Saturdays for bonuses. So we were trying to make sure gave them what other schools were unable to give them. Okay. And then salon clientele. That's the only thing. If I decide to do this thing again, I will bring in someone to build the salon floor because of the flexibility and having the different programs and having two schools at the time. We really didn't build the salon clientele like we wanted. Now I get more calls now that we're not in the building than I ever got. Okay. And so I would definitely invest in bringing someone in who specialize in building that salon clientele, or just having an instructor and letting them just stay there in that salon floor era. Let's look at hints for adult learners. Respect them, period. The notion of earn respect, you get respect, that is street stuff. Okay, they do not work in these classrooms where these individuals sign over thousands of dollars to get an education. All right, and then logically, if your maturity has to come up as an individual, respect them. You don't know what that person has been through to get to this point. Okay, it is a respect. I don't have time to waver back and forth. If she give me respect, I'm gonna give her respect. No, you have a job that has to be done, and you're on a timeline. You're on a schedule. Respecting them is simply saying, guess what? Yes, yes. May I help you? Good morning. Is there anything additional you need? Okay. It's checking in with them. I noticed you were having trouble over here. You want to stay after the class and talk about it? You want a meeting? Let me know if you need any help. To me, that's respecting. Okay. I'm not going to have an ego or feel offended. And I tell educators this all the time. If you have an issue with people talking about you, you don't know how to deal with that, you cannot teach. It's not time for you to be a teacher. All right? Because everything is exposed in the classroom. You are the leader. You get the most hits, and you're supposed to be able to take it. You're supposed to be able to take it, turn it into a positive experience. And remember, they are learners. They're not in the capacity of an educator. And so we're supposed to be stronger. All right. So if there is offense, if you get easily offended, your feelings hurt, it's probably not time for you to be an educator. Okay. Because people are going to talk about you. You can't control it. It's going to be good, it's going to be bad. And also, you can't please everybody. So a lot of times, in order for me to get through my work, even if I know someone feels ill about me or the situation, it may not be about me at all. They just mad at their situation at home or their car, or something happened that got cut off before they came to school that has ruined their morning. They really need an hour to just kind of wake up, then they'll be good. I don't take that as offensive or them having something ill towards me. Okay. They know the rules. We're going to keep it moving. And how I would handle students like that, I would have a word wall, and I would tell them, hey, in the word wall is motivation, scriptures, quotations, all kind of stuff. But guess what? The word wall, it had two chairs. and it was facing the wall. Okay, you're not feeling yourself. Okay. Look, go over to the word wall. Get your word, get yourself together, and come on back. The word wall was a break that teachers could give. Give that student a break over at the word wall, and then go in about 10-15 minutes they should be ready to jump back into the classroom. A lot of times when you allow that freedom of students just needing a little quiet time, they had a hectic life this morning, they had to get all the kids together, they really didn't mean it. They're asleep, they're just, they're not talkative when they first come in. Give them 15 minutes before class start. Some things we could do, okay, to get them together is to have some relaxing music on, have some, have the room, smelling good, have some musa music like water, earth music, or have a time in the middle of the day where you say, God, this is our guys, this is our mindset reset. This is our reset time. Instead of recess, this is our reset time. 15 minutes. They can do whatever they want. They can go on break. You're going to cut the light off. You're going to cut you a little sound on. You may have you a little aromatherapy. But it's going to be 15 minutes of we just need a mental break. And then you're going to go back to work after that 15 minutes. You may do a stretch. Everybody together, let's stretch. Let's exercise. Whatever you got to do. But those are things to bring adult learners in because you know what they deal with before they even come in, whether that's a day or night. And so sometimes when you initiate the respect and that place of freedom and safe place of peace, you don't have a problem with nobody. And a lot of times, if somebody's trying to give you a problem, the whole class will say, we ain't doing that. Okay. So sometimes you don't even have to fight your battles, and respond as you was a colleague. Okay, so a lot of times I've had students who are older than me, younger than me. The younger ones, I don't treat them like babies. There are no mamas. And the older ones, I don't treat them like grandmamas. We're all one. Okay, we're all adults here. And that's how we're going to be. There will be no baby talk. There will be no mama calling. We are adults. And so I try to treat everybody like adults and incorporate realities and ethics. Okay, real talk. And this is where I bring in business nuggets. It was a challenge in my younger years because guess what? I did not have those experiences. And I have learned in teaching, especially in my 20s. My teachers brought me in at 19. I got my license at 18. My teachers brought me in at 19. I started teaching, going to the school to sign up on a dare. And that dare, I'm still here. That was a setup. Okay. But my teachers brought me in. I had mentors that girded me for 3 years before I was let go. So I was well, good and spoiled and ready to roll when it was time for me to roll by myself. So it was all about responsibilities. So in those places where I didn't have the experience, I would bring in someone else. Okay. Until I was able to match reality with what was going on in the classroom. Because my first class, my students were 16 and 17, and I was only 19 years old. And then I had students who had just graduated with me talking about, you my teacher? Okay. And I had people who were 33, 34 years old. And I'm 19 years old. And so after that first 6 months, I stopped telling people how old I was. But I had this training. I had been doing hair since I was 14. I had been in the salon since I was 17, 18. And here I am, 19 years old, learning how to teach. And I stayed in that program for 3 years because, again, after the first year, um, the first 6 months I was a trainee, and then they hired me, and you can only work for 3 years before you need to go take your test. So by the time I took my test, I was well. into learning how to mix realities and build professionalism. And guess what? I was not this teacher at 19. I was a wild child. I was a wild child, and how I know so much about interaction with classmates. I was the cool teacher, which got me in a lot of trouble at the school. And so I've learned from a lot of my own mistakes. Okay. So that experience is on both sides. Making sure you have superior customer service, even if you're providing service to students, great customer service. Here's some tips: responding, providing pertinent information, making sure you have relevant, timely feedback, okay? And be available just for conversation, okay? How do you show you care? Listening, positive attitude, communicating, anticipate the needs. You know, you're going to need this going forward. I want to make sure you got it now. The power of the follow up and showing appreciation. Okay. Investing in your instructors. There has to be a class. There has to be something that they want to learn. Find out something you know they need. Find out and make sure they get it. Invest in them. Motivational circumstances. Okay, and sometimes you bring in a motivation coach that gets your team ready. Sometimes the educators got to be motivated to get before they even go in the classroom. This is our responsibility. Okay, here you go. Continuing education trainings, the praise policy. Praise that recognize accomplishment is spontaneous and effective. Sometimes you can surprise students with a popcorn party, and you're like, "It's only popcorn." And they were excited. We provided students with breakfast. We provided students with chips. We provided students with all kinds of stuff. And guess what? They were excited. Okay. And it was like really effective. Praise strategies. Do it now. Be Pacific. Connect to the educator feelings. All right. Bring your own self in. Praise to criticism ratio. Don't just hit. All right. Praise. Give some praise. All right. You made criticism. They would say she don't do nothing but complain and fuss. But Ken, one time they said that you said good job. So just kind of balance it out. Trust and appreciation. You got to be able to trust your team. Okay. And you teach them how to do that. And as we're wrapping it up, never take for granted that educational excellence is easy. It looks easy. Some of us make it look easy, but it's not easy. But is it worth it? You bet your bottom dollar it is. Okay. It is a process, not an event. Okay. All of the above in retro. We've went through those objectives. We're ready to go. I actually went over one chapter. We were supposed to move into 14. I went over into 15. 14 is about career. And so I'm kind of glad that 14 is now, because I am going to share with you some of the things that you can do with your license. And I know I've shared a lot. In this time, but tomorrow I'm going to share some things that we can do with that license. And I'm also going to share, see if I can upload a secondary lesson plan sheet so you can see another layout. Ultimately, what I'm trying to do now is to make sure you have what you need on the practical component. Also, going forward, we need to jump into one of those study guides, one of those state board prep study guides. I want you to learn and be familiar with the language. And let's just get it started. So I'm excited. That concludes our training for today. I am going to stop share. Congratulations, we completed chapter 15. And I'm gonna close out our, and look, we're just in time because this battery is closing as well. Let me see. Okay. But that's what we have. And so we're